So we're talking about collaborative automation, critical steps for success. And panel here, I'll introduce myself and then we'll do a quick intro through the panel. So James Maunder, I'm Director of Digital and Information Technologies at Unite Students. We're the UK's largest provider of purpose-built student accommodation. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself? Name, role, and an opening statement on automation.
Hello everyone, my name's Matt Whelan. I work for Legal & General. I'm their discovery and automation partner. If I was to say one sentence about automation, I've worked in IT for 25 years. I've done automation for 7 years. And it's actually quite cool to say you work in automation. When you tell people you work in IT, it gets a bit dull. But automation is one of those things that give people a bit more interest and appetite around what you do. So that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. Mary.
Yeah, thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Mary. I'm actually Miss Medite, but for simplify things, you can call me Mary. I'm the RPA project manager in Bayer, the pharma company. And I have dedicated my entire professional life to automation. So automation for me means a lot. For me, if I have to define it with just a word, I would say it's kind of a mindset. And also come from a developer perspective. I started my career as a developer, so I have the best of both worlds. I have been a developer and now in a more management role, so I can understand everyone's points of view. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mary. And Sean.
Thank you. Sean, so I'm from 1010, so I'm the lead intelligent automation there. So essentially, 1010 is an organization. We are a consultancy who are experts in automation. So if you think about like your business process automation, intelligent automation, AI-driven automation is pretty much what we do. So we've been founded since 2004. So large-ish, lots of clients, lots of use cases as such. But yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Nobody wants to take the first question, but Sean very bravely has agreed to give it a stab. So let's define terms. You look around the room here, every booth is talking about artificial intelligence, automation. So what do we mean when we talk about automation? And what technology considerations do we need to give? And what do we need to think about architecturally, Sean?
So when we talk about automation, so I think in the past 10 to 15 years, automation has come a long way. So when it started out, it was a large corporations as like a nice to have. We are now in a world where it's a must have. And I think the companies that we've been talking to today, clients, etc., they're all, if they aren't doing it, they're talking about it, right? And I think on the horizon of AI, it's like the go-to word now. So guess if you think about AI, there's no point in AI within business unless it's a automation, right? So like for me, where automation is now is it's a must-have. In terms of technologies, we can have a look at like your standard vendors, like your sort of RPA vendors, your intelligent automation vendors, but it's more of a holistic approach, and where we look at hyper automation now to automate the end-to-end processes as such.
Wonderful.
And if I may add just a quick sentence, I totally agree with you. And I believe that also automation is redefining totally the way that we work, also the way that we are thinking, and also the way that we innovate. And I believe that automation and innovation comes hand in hand. And I don't see a word or better word to express automation rather than innovation and transformation.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mary.
Yeah, just to add to that, I mean, in our organisation, we've done a fantastic job of delivering RPA solutions for the last 5 or 6 years, and we have approximately 200 robots running in the business to the value of about 170 FTE, which is really, really positive. But we've recognised that we need to shift direction and pivot onto new technology. So it's been fantastic today to listen to so many speakers talk about generative AI. we're starting to look at Microsoft Power Platforms and how they can help our business and offer more value, while still having a core of RPA, because there's still a place for that in our organisation. So I think the key message is look at what's out there, look at what's right for your business, and evolve and change quickly.
Yeah. So the message is increasingly information technology is automation, is AI. We need to bring it together. So with such a broad canvas, Mary, question for you, where do we start? You know, so easy to get into analysis paralysis. Where do we start? What do we prioritize? And perhaps equally as important, what do we choose not to focus on?
Yeah, it is a nice question, and I believe there are still companies that haven't implemented automation yet. So this answer may help them on how to kick off their automation journey. What I can say is that do not fall into hearing or listening to congresses, and if a company followed a path that worked for them, it doesn't mean that it will work for you. So point one, and then do not feel overwhelmed by the automation path. It can feel overwhelmed because there are a lot of things to be taken into consideration, but I would say that you should start doing a deep analysis on, do I really need automation in my company? Because we always fall into trends, as I mentioned. We hear intelligent automation everywhere, artificial intelligence, and we want to implement it in our companies. But first of all, we need to stop and think, is it really what my company needs to improve? So what I really suggest to everyone asking me the question, should I start automation in my company, is do a deep analysis on really, is it needed in your company, right? And for me, the main analysis, or one of the main points of the analysis is it aligned with the goals and objectives of the company? And that's the first stage. Then I would suggest to start, if at the end automation is the journey and the solution, after the analysis, then start with simple, small process to be automated. Do not start with big things or huge things, because first of all, let's try and see a small process to be automated. After that, what I suggest and what really works for many of the companies is running workshops, because creating a pipeline from zero with a lot of automation in ideas can be very difficult. So what I suggest, and as I mentioned, it works for many of the companies, is to run some workshops with the people from business, from operations, from finance, from order to cash, any department of the company, running these workshops, explaining what is automation about, some real examples, some applications of the automation, and then you create a pipeline with all of these initiatives. After that, and after you implemented a simple, small process in your company, then you prioritize this pipeline that you obtain from the business colleagues. And of course, it's important to prioritize what is adding more value to the company, but let's not lose focus and do not always think that your automation needs to save money or needs to save time to the employees. It also involves critical processes, meaning, for example, an email or a process that needs to be done early in the morning, 9 in the morning, and it's an email to the CEO of the company, so no errors can be found in that process. So apart from saving money and saving hours, think of critical tasks to be automated.
Thanks, Mary. Any builds, Matt or Sean?
I think just like to add, I think the biggest point when starting automation is are often working with like the budget holders, the senior leadership team who want to see the biggest benefit in the quickest time, right? Which often lines up with the most complex process. And I think my biggest advice is to get those small wins, something which works, because when we look at automation, it's like a long-term thing, and long-term, the culture is the most important thing, so it has to work. And we've been working with loads and loads of companies, clients who they've had these RPA projects, these intelligent automation projects, which have failed, and the senior leadership team have just fallen foul of like what RPA is, what intelligent automation is, what AI-driven automation is, and it's really about getting them on side. But I guess it's a very tricky scenario because you're talking to the budget holders who want to see benefits ASAP, and you're trying to essentially direct them into a place where you want to be, which is a tricky place, right? But yeah.
And I think just picking up on legal in general, I'm interested in a couple of things. So I'm conscious that until we see what something can do, we obviously don't know what it's capable of. And I think it was Henry Ford who said, when he was trying to popularize car ownership, if he'd asked people what they wanted, they'd have said, "I'd like a faster horse, please." So what is the role for truly ground-up innovation? And building on Sean's point, what are the perils and the pitfalls, anything to avoid in your experience?
So I think in my experience that there's a couple of things that you need to be successful. First of all, you do need that senior sponsorship. So we've been very fortunate at Legal & General where we have a CFO that is invested in us, trust the process, trust the team, have that in place, because without it you will fail. I think the next thing that's really important is think about the people you need to talk to really understand what the art of the possible is, and those are the people in the business. Senior stakeholders will always love automation because you can talk about big numbers and savings, but building the trust of the people in those operational roles, those subject matter experts, around what the art of the possible is, what you're capable of delivering for them, and for them to understand that the value of what you're going to return doesn't necessarily mean capacity release. It means giving you something more worthwhile to work on, give you an opportunity to do something more meaningful, move the organisation forward, working on different things, take away some of the heavy lifting in some of those manual processes that automation quite rightly is ripe for.
Yeah.
So it's around bringing that customer on the journey with you, so they are with you rather than you're doing it to them.
Yeah.
So it's a mindset.
All right. And a question maybe for Sean. I was at an AI conference back in October, and there was somebody presenting from, I think it was a pharmaceutical company, and they were saying the most valuable application of artificial intelligence they'd had in their company was something that somebody had been doing in their spare time. In fact, they'd been doing it in their spare time in contravention of policy. So there was this real tension in the organization between wanting to have a stern word with this individual and celebrating the fact that they'd come up with something that really added value to the organization. What's the role for that kind of experimentation, do you think, within corporates, the kind of organizations that we work for?
I personally don't think there's one good answer for it. Yes, tricky question, thanks. So I think if we look at AI in the places it's been, right, so your classic like chat, GPT, let's be honest, people are using it now for personal automation, right? And it's how to come, so people themselves have become more productive, but the companies haven't seen necessarily the gains, right? So we've all written out an email and then put it in there and it's all fancy, right? And it's just a quicker way of working, but the companies aren't seeing the benefits. It's more that the people themselves are working quicker. Are they taking on more tasks? Not sure. So I think the role, in terms of the role of AI in terms of process productivity is still to be perceived, right? It's because essentially we need the data sets to make the processes more efficient, I guess.
Yeah.
And if I may add also regarding artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, also in Bayer we realized last year or last year and a half that people were utilizing ChatGPT for and utilizing sensitive data of Bayer into the ChatGPT. So that was the trigger for creating our own ChatGPT in Bayer, which is called MyGenAssist. So this way we are also approaching the technology to the employees. And also how we are approaching the technology to the employees, because sometimes we feel like a little bit of resistance from the employees, and more in Bayer, a huge company with a lot of ages, a range of huge ages. So we feel a lot of resistance sometimes when we want to implement automation in specific departments. So another lessons learned or a tip from my side on how to approach the technology in order to avoid the resistance from the employees is with a citizen developer program. If you are not familiar with this word, it's basically employees that are not technical at all, letting them to build their own automation. So they are like small developers doing simple tasks. So we started with this citizen development program, but it's not always that good, because starting the citizen development program is very good and people is engaged and empowered and has a lot of power to start with this journey, but then keeping them in that program is difficult. So we also have a rewarding program for our employees who bring brilliant ideas for automation. So that's also another incentive for employees to engage and bring new ideas for automation for the company.
Thanks, Mary. And let's drill into the people side a bit more, because I think it's interesting that you've focused on behaviours and culture. So Legal & General, you've been driving value from RPA for several years. You've got these bots trundling around the organisation. We know that our people need new skills, but what kind of shifts in mindset, in culture and behaviours do you need to make real success from automation technologies?
So from a mindset perspective, I feel really fortunate that within my team, and I've got a few of the team here today, they're curious, they want to learn new things. If I was to give them a career path that stayed in the RPA space for the next 5 to 6 years, having done it for the last 4 to 5, I'll probably find those people going off and trying the new technologies, the Power Platforms, Gen AI, other apps that are out there. So the fact that we're now on that transformation journey to shift to something new, but personally for me it really excites me. I think there's a great opportunity to learn and grow. I think the thirst for knowledge within my team is there. That curiosity is there to learn new things as well. Regarding the organisation being ready and the behaviours within the organisation, we've almost got to go back to basics in the same way we did with RPA. And it comes back to my previous answer around building that trust in the new capability, us demonstrating that we have the skills to deliver those changes for the business and do them safely, and then build up a confidence in the organisation. Again, start small, demonstrate your value, and then you can then go out and go for some of those larger opportunities with the support of senior management, but with some of the operational team actually singing your praises for what you've delivered and the benefits you've returned.
Yeah. What about the elephant in the room, which is the concern that people may have that they'll be automated out of a job? Is that something any of you on the panel have faced?
Absolutely. It's probably the first conversation you have with people when you first meet people, to talk to them about what your service is and what you can do. I've worked in automation now for 7 years across 3 different organisations. I do not know one person that's left an organisation down to an automation that we've delivered. Back to my point around, there's always so much work out there. Our business where I work at the moment, there's always going to be more opportunity to learn and grow and do new things within the business. So for us to take away some of that heavy lifting and give them the opportunity to do that is a positive thing. But again, it comes down to trust. But if you've got evidence of what you've done in other business areas, you can take those use cases in when you engage with new people.
Wonderful, thank you. And thinking about that trust point, which I think is so powerful, Mary and Sean, any builds on how you've engendered trust in your organisations, or Sean, perhaps organisations you've worked for?
Yeah. So trust for us. So when we're talking about change, right? Within the automation world, like if we think about the project life cycle as such, we need to take the users, the stakeholders, the leadership team, the process owners, the whole team on the whole journey. So transparent developing, requirements gathering, building, testing. I think one of the biggest would say issues is like the process owners and like the process doers aren't the greatest at giving requirements as such. So it's very much they do things in a certain way and they tell us about the happy path, right? Whereas it's happens so often within testing is that yes, they've explained the happy path, it happens 80% of the time, but they haven't told you about, I don't know, that an invoice has come in from a different person or the invoice number is in the right-hand corner for this supplier, which they think is so minimal because they're because they're so used to doing it for a certain supplier or a certain use case, they don't know to document the requirements. So in terms of bringing people along the journey, it's very much like a agile working environment, being as transparent as possible, feeling like you're showing towels, etc. And then when we come to the automation, and guess from your side, Matt, like when you have an RPA team, as soon as something goes wrong, you'll have people jump on it and moan about it and moan how wrong it's gone, but they'll never sing its praises. So for us, it's really about singing the praises of the automations when they go right. So one of the biggest things that we've seen is during the COVID times is that these automations were put in place for one person's time, but since the business has picked up, it's now covering, say, a team of 10 or a team of 7 or a team of 5. But it's those automations which everyone thinks are just working in the background and is supporting one person's role, but unless we're reporting out on those benefits and those successes, we really can't sing the praises of the RPA or the intelligent automation or whichever automation that you've got in place. We need to make sure that we're proactively reporting out on these successes.
And I believe that's one of the bear traps, to get the requirements correctly in place and people to understand really what automation is. And I believe, well, in Bayer, we believe on upskilling also the roles of our employees with the Citizen program, rewarding people for getting innovation ideas and so on. So we believe in that mindset as well.
Mary, can you just talk a little bit about that Citizen Developer Program? Because it's something which you'll see on presentations. Gartner will tell you a Citizen Development Program is a really great thing to do. How do you get started on a Citizen Development Program?
Actually, as I said, start with the Citizen Developer Program it's easy from a point of view like the licenses are very cheap, or getting people like excited to learn a new technology is really easy for people. But the difficult part is to get them and keep them in the Citizen Developer Program for a long time, because at the end that people has parallel things to do. They're functional, they're operation stuff, so they have less time to dedicate on the developer point of view. So that's the struggle that we find, and that's why we also reward the Citizen Developer Program. Like we have like some badges, like saying, hey, you have level up on your skills, like a little bit of video game stuff. So we have like different levels when people is upskilling on a certain technology, and we are giving also rewards to that people. So for me, starting a Citizen Developer Program, it's easy. The not so easy part is to keep people engaged on that program. But I gave you a few tips on how to keep them.
Wonderful, thank you. I do realize as chair of this panel, I really should have had a clock in front of me. So forgive me if we're over time. How are we doing for time, folks? We're good? All right. Time to open up for audience questions, I think. Would anybody like to ask a question of the panel? If you can just wait till a microphone finds its way to you, that would be marvelous. Thank you, Gabby.
Thanks so much for a very interesting discussion. How far do you think we are from seamless automation, where you don't need to, go through all the hurdles that currently takes? That invoice, number from the left side or the right side really wouldn't matter. You would just automate things as they go. How far do you think we are from this future? Thank you.
Who'd like to pick that up? You want to take that one?
I hope I answer your question here. So one of our ambitions has been for the last 5 years to do end-to-end processing, straight-through processing across our business. We've yet to find it. We've had opportunity to automate several parts of a process, but to get to that seamless end-to-end, for us at the moment with the current technology stack that we haven't found it. I do think, having gone for, even round here, so I've been in this space for a while now, but I'm learning new things all the time. I think you can take a number of different technologies and bolt them together in a very sensible way to get to that seamless answer, but I don't think you'd necessarily have it through one technology stack. But it's identifying the right tools that you can take those component parts and bring them together to give you that straight-through processing. Does that answer your question?
When you say 5 years, 10 years, or 1 year, or it's already possible now, just you need to put the right things in place?
I would say in the next 3 years.
I agree. That sounds about right to me. Mary, Sean, any builds?
Just to add, really, I think the automation, the technology is almost there. I think it's the business systems now which let us down, right? Is that we've got these archaic systems in most companies, right? And I guess all these large corporations who have got the money to spend on end-to-end automation, they're almost caught by these archaic systems. So I think, to flip the question, it's how quickly can these businesses become more modern, right?
Wonderful. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks. Hello. Thanks
Hello.
a lot. My question is more around the maintenance of automations that you create. So it's one thing to create them, but before you know it, you've got thousands of automations everywhere. How do you keep an eye on them? How do you manage them? How do you maintain them? And how do you know when things start to go wrong or keep them in line with the changing business processes?
Thank you. Mary, do you want to pick that one?
Yeah, thanks for the question. And I also think that is a bear trap as well, because sometimes we tend to just create the automation and just set and we close the automation and we forget about the traceability of that automation. So it's very important also when you start your automation journey to have, for example, in Bayer, and I'm aware that also in many of the companies, I'm sure you also have like a platform where you follow or you have full transparency on the processes when they have been running, the error rates, and so on, right? And of course, we have also some methods to also identify which automations has been run for a month, for example. And then we trigger that, and then we contact the business person and saying, hey, what's happening with this process? Is this maybe not useful anymore? Has been there a change in the process from a business perspective? So there is a maintenance to be done in that process. So usually we trigger that, let's say, those triggers or those alerts on processes that hasn't been run for a long time, or also users that hasn't been activated for a long time. So with a platform for a maintenance and monitoring, it's crucial for the automation team.
Thanks, Mary. Matt, how, in Legal & General, how do you keep your automations governed, fit for present, fit for purpose?
So as part of our function, so we do the full cradle to grave delivery for our automations. We have the analysis team through to delivery, through to test, and into an operations team that then sit all under the same team. So we get full visibility and transparency throughout the process. From an operational perspective, we make sure we have the right rigor in place regarding monitoring, maintenance, error rates, spikes and drop-offs in performance on processes. So if we see something that looks unusual regarding transaction volumes, we should be checking that, speaking to the business, making sure that that is what they were expecting. We put a lot of onus on the business regarding the processes that we automate, because we will deliver them a solution, but they still own the process, so we make that very clear at handover. So back to the point that Mary raised around the change controls, etc., you've got to make sure that you've got the right understanding around any changes that are happening in the business, and that they inform you that that change could have an impact on your live solution. So you spot it, you can change control it ahead of that change within the business, so you don't cause the business any problems.
So that business process ownership needs to be really overt in order that the automation can be made and maintained fit for purpose.
It's incredibly important. If you get that wrong,
Yeah.
and then you don't have the right monitoring in place, you could have lots of things going wrong in the business that you don't know about, and the business won't necessarily spot it quick enough.
Okay, wonderful. Any more questions? Yes, gentleman at the front, and then lady just behind.
I have a question for Mary. She mentioned something about being able to know which process in your business that should be automated, and then the one that needs human in the loop collaboration. So I really want to get to that part. Is there a system that exists that you can easily detect this process needs to be automated and this needs human intervention? Thank you.
That's a good question, and that's where we distinguish between attended bots and unattended bots. So sometimes we see that some processes need the human intervention. Imagine you need a check to be done by a human or a CAPTCHA in a website that, of course, a robot cannot perform. So instead of rejecting completely that idea or saying, hey, we are not going to automate that idea for you, we try a different path, and it's automating everything except the part that a human is needed in that part. And that's what we call the attended bot. So the human starts the bot, and then when it needs the intervention from the human, it stops. Then the human acts or do the actions that is required, and then the robot continues the performance, well, the robot execution. But also to do your question, also it's important to trigger which processes are attended and which ones are unattended. And in case that you have some human intervention that is required, let's not reject that idea. We can develop maybe we can automate 70% of that robot, and then the 30% is human intervention. I hope that clarifies. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. And another question?
Hi. It's just a question on your point earlier, Sean, around the importance of playing back the successes of automations to the business and shouting about that. Have you got any tips on a particularly good way to do that, a format of doing it, especially to the leadership of the company in terms of playing back that value of the successes of automation?
Yeah, of course. So when we talk about automation and like reporting back the successes as such, so within most of your tool vendors, so like if we're traditionally talking about like your UiPath, Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, etc. So when you look at what they're giving as like a tool, it often doesn't fit the bill of what your senior leadership team needs, right? So I think the biggest thing for us is to get the KPIs of what makes that business tick, right? So is it the volume of transactions that it's done? Is it the task time? Is it the amount of hours saved? So, and really tracking those pain points. I think one of the biggest ones for us is like the change requests and the hot fixes for maintenance issues, is really keeping on top of that to go, right, well, okay, well, we haven't developed this and we're delayed on this, but we've been doing this hot fix because there's been a system update. And it's really reporting those little things which brings those senior leaders on that journey, right? And then to go back, like in terms of like your reporting, your matrix, like what we found works is that when you go into a business, it's often that one department has asked for you, but it's often there's automation opportunities across the other departments. So one metric that we like to do is to report out on which departments are saving the most hours, which departments have got the most amount of bots or automations, and it really drives that like competition across the department leads, and we see that as working. One of the things which me personally I find is quite a cheesy thing, but one of the companies wanted it, is they wanted a certificate when like a bot had been onboarded for like a role, and like it gave that sense of a team, like that achievement. Like me personally, I don't like the idea, but if it works with the business, it's about understanding your business, but giving them those metrics in a readily time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sean. We're almost out of, I'm really sorry, but one more question. And it'll have to be 1 2-sentence answers.
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
We can.
It's for yourself, Merritt. Thank you for sharing the challenges you had about citizen developers. Could you just expand a little bit more? I'm all enthusiastic about having citizen developers, but I didn't know that I would need to kind of encourage them to stay enrolled. I'm just curious to know more about those challenges.
Yeah, so as I said, starting with the citizen developer is very easy because everyone from a business perspective that hasn't touched anything of coding and automation is really engaged and really hyped on starting this journey. So it's really easy to start, but for keeping them, as I mentioned, we had a few challenges because people has parallel work, they have their operations on a daily basis, they have also some KPIs to reach on their goals. So it's very difficult that they combine the developer or the citizen development program in parallel of their task. So what we do or what we created is a platform for citizen development program. So everyone has like a profile, like as I said, it's very likely like a video game. So people is reaching badges whenever they create an automation for themselves. And they level up even more if that automation can be used by more than one colleague. Because sometimes or most of the time the citizen developers create automations for themselves, exclusively for themselves. But if that automation that they create, it could be expanded to the rest of the team, 1 or 2 or more colleagues in the department, then we reward that person even more than a normal automation, let's say. So I hope that these tips help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I think we're out of time, folks. So can we give our panel a big round of applause, please? Matt, Mary, and Sean.
Thank you very much.